Welcome back, everyone, to episode 19 of the CLG Faithful Podcast. Got a little bit of things new this week. So I'm your host, as always, Nefarious. And actually, Artren is out this week. He's extremely busy with work. But I've got a new guy to help us along for this week. Say hello.
Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm Professor Yana. You may know me from Vancouver, British Columbia with the very large I Still Have Faith sign. Got a bit of applause over in Vancouver. But overall, just a big League of Legends CLG fan, and try to muster along with all the other esports going on.
Yeah, so, without further ado, let's just get right into it.
Alright, sounds good.
Yeah. So, CLG first played up against Echo Fox and, of course, Team Solo Mid in League of Legends. So let's start with Echo Fox.
Alright.
So, tell me game one. What happens here?
So, if anybody was worried about Dardoch's ability to mesh with CLG after the trade with Immortals, I think we can rest our hats in that regard. I'm pretty sure Dardoch's coming into his own as a CLG member, and this series against Echo Fox kind of showed that firsthand, especially this game one.
Yeah, and he was on Rengar, a champion that CLG fans didn't exactly come to love last split.
I can only wonder why.
Yeah, Xmithy's a great jungler, especially when it comes to champions like Gragas and Rek'Sai, but Rengar is not one of his fortes. But
yeah, his Rengar left a little bit to be desired.
Watching Dardoch on Rengar, oh man.
I mean, the record speaks for itself, right? He went 9-2-3, best record on the team in game one. Helped out Darshan big time in the top lane, and just generally popped off. It was a very convincing game one win. Dardoch had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and you know what? Dardoch popped off, but in reality, the team just did super well. Darshan went 4-0-9 on the Galio. Stixxay went 2-0-9 on Varus. And this is actual
support.
Yeah, this is actual ADC Varus, not this I'm gonna sit back and press Q the whole game.
Correct.
Yeah, and Huhi doing pretty well with Ahri as well.
Yep, Ahri's just one of those mid lane champions that you either have to respect, know how to beat, or you're just gonna get stomped.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. I know Ahri got nerfed a little while ago. I was like, eh.
Yeah, she got nerfed, but at the same time, it's just like she's still one of those like S tier, maybe even just A tier champions, but in the right player's hands, she's still just unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, we could have a discussion about Ahri for a while, but that's not why we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, we go on to match 2, and this time Echo Fox strikes back.
Yeah, I was surprised by the Galio pick and support. It turned out to help Keith a lot on Caitlyn, especially in the early game. Especially the level 1 start from Echo Fox with that whole Galio Caitlyn comp. And it left a little bit to question Afromoo's choice as Zyra there. It certainly didn't seem to play too well on that.
So credit to Echo Fox. They had a really good level 1 in which they placed some deep wards early on. They got vision of Dardoch, and they know that he wasn't on his blue side. He wasn't on the blue side blue buff.
Yep.
Yeah, so that got taken really early, and then Dardoch got collapsed upon, and as a result has to die for that. And then from there, Echo Fox is able to basically have control of the game for quite a bit.
Yeah, the early vision control kind of spelled disaster for the Varus Zyra comp because they're not the most mobile ever. Zyra is very good at CC, but her ability to escape the early pressure from the Caitlyn and Galio, as we saw in Game 2, didn't really work out the way we wanted it to.
Yeah, and credit to Darshan. There were many, many times when I just felt like it was Darshan versus the world.
Well, on Fiora, that can often happen. Darshan went, 10-4-5 in the top lane? Had almost as many kills as the entire rest of the team in Game 2, and really that's the only reason I think the game went 40 minutes.
Yeah, there were many times when Darshan makes the TPs and he comes into the team fights, gets quite a few kills, and you see his mastery on Fiora is there, but this just wasn't a chance for CLG to play out the comp.
Correct. You can only do so much when only one member of your team is, above average on a KD ratio in that game.
Right. And again, we already called out the Zyra pick. Personally, I've never been comfortable watching Afromoo on Zyra.
I have rarely seen Afromu on Zyra. I'm more comfortable with the Bard and the Blitzcrank and champions like that, where
The
you can really
playmakers.
just exactly the playmakers where you can be the aggressive one. Zyra seems like a kind of counter
She's
to
a
that
disengaged
strategy.
champion, right? If someone wants to
Exactly.
come in onto you, then you can use the ult. You can use the plants to help you root up someone. You can disengage
Yep.
with her.
Yeah, it feels like Afromu is just way more comfortable with the engaged champions, and the Zyra play was a little unusual. Trying to play into the Galio, I can understand why they did that, but it just didn't work out with Varus.
But even so, the backline, you've got Keith who's on Caitlyn. You've got Froggen on Talia, and Talia's going to be pretty far back. And
Yeah.
you've got Looper on the Rumble, who's going to be tossing equalizers. So, okay, Lee Sin might go and whatever, but he's still fairly mobile.
Yep. So the disengage is really a bit more ineffective in that regard, since you're playing really a control comp.
Right. So, let's move on to match 3 and talk about that.
Yeah, let us talk about that.
Because,
It was
Dardoch, I want to bring attention to Dardoch, if you don't mind, because
yeah, go for
previously,
it.
whenever we've seen Dardoch on some of the other teams, my biggest criticism of Dardoch was that in the high pressure situations, he tends to tilt a little bit, and then it's a case of I need to go and make this play, or else we're going to lose. And then if something goes wrong, he'll just keep trying to force it.
Yeah, and I saw that a lot on Immortals last split, where when they fall behind in the mid to late game, and it's really like Dardoch versus the world. Dardoch wants to be the superhero that everybody needs.
And to be fair, they do need him at times to do that.
Oh, sure, absolutely, but that just tended to be his overall play style, and if that didn't work out, the tilt happened, as you just mentioned, and it just kind of snowballed out of control. And I'm not seeing that with CLG Dardoch here.
I think a lot of credit has to be given to Ziggs and Afromir for that.
Yeah, just the blend of play styles that Stixay and Afromo and even Darshan brings to Dardoch's style is really complementary.
And even Huhi, he is someone who is willing to give up his lane CS to go help Dardoch if he gets collapsed upon or someone invades.
Yeah, the whole composition of this split CLG team, if you could put it in one word, I would think is unselfish.
Yeah. So let's I called out Dardoch, but let's talk. How did he do in game 3, and how did the rest of the team do as well?
Well, Dardoch was once again the playmaker early on, showing the early pick Graves into the Lee Sin. Kind of knew that was coming from game 1 and 2. We knew Grig is fairly competent on Lee Sin. Froggen switched roles over to the LeBlanc, and that just really played right into Dardoch's hand there with the engage style of Graves. And it also played quite well into the engage comp that Afromu brought back in game 3 with the Blitzcrank and Stixay Zaya.
Absolutely. And I think it should be noted that the Echo Fox also went for the 80 cannon top lane, and this was against Starshan on the Gragas. So you've got your engage, your disengage there. But
it didn't work so well for Looper.
It didn't quite work so well for Looper, but I thought he was also doing a decent amount of work trying to take down some towers as well. But,
sure, the objective control was there.
But if you look at the mid lane, the counter pick was for Huhi on the Kassadin.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly enough, on the support Sejuani.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while. Has this been played at all this split yet? Like Sejuani at all, let alone support?
I'm not sure it has. I'm trying to think if it's been played at all in any of the other regions, but nothing comes immediately to mind.
It certainly hasn't been respected as a meaningful pick to I have to ban out Sejuani. Like there was a time in season 5 when that was definitely the case, but it's not now.
So in theory, I understand that. Oh, you're gonna go in. You've got this tank. You got this tank champion in the bot lane, and she's gonna go in. She's gonna have great engage with the ult, and you can stun someone up, and then your team just cleans up from there. Yep. But as we found out in the game, support Sejuani is okay, if you're ahead, but when you're behind, then she just gets blown up.
It's really hard to bounce back.
She just gets blown up super fast. And we saw the couple of times when Afromu just pulled in Sejuani. Oh, look, died.
Hook City, you're dead. Congratulations.
But, to give credit to Echo Fox, I think they played fairly well this game, at least from the beginning on, up until a certain Baron call.
Yeah, a certain Baron call kind of cost them the game and their engage there. But yeah, all credit to Echo Fox. They are one of the more surprising teams this split that I've seen, and I think that really speaks volumes to the NA LCS this split. A lot of unexpected things are going on this
It's
split,
a
even just in week
lot more
three.
competitive.
Exactly. Like, you're not seeing, and we're going to get into TSM in a minute, but you're not seeing the usual TSM and CLG doing so great early on.
Or Cloud9.
It's exactly, and it's really anybody split right now, and I really like that.
And also credit to Keith. I think he's improved quite a bit.
Yeah, his ADC has grown a lot between last split and this split, and it's really, I think a lot of it is maturity, both as individual players on Echo Fox and just their ability to mesh well as a team. I think they have a lot going for them moving forward.
Right. So, I just want to go back to the Baron call that Echo Fox made. So Echo
Yeah.
Fox decides to go, and they make a call around Baron, and this
Okay.
is after CLG shows, I want to say it was 4 or 5 men bot side, which they all clump up and they kill the AD cannon. So Looper is dead, and he has no TP if I call correctly, and
Yep.
Echo Fox decides to rush the Baron. CLG goes and makes a beeline towards it, and someone in the Reddit threads pointed out that CLG has the Cloud Drake, and this is the secret Drake, the almighty Cloud Drake, the reason why we get there in time.
Yep.
So Aframu goes in, and he manages to pull Greg on the Lee Sin, and Dardoch goes in for the Smite steal, and he gets the Baron.
Yeah. Just once again, Dardoch's series, just in general, showing just how much power he has as a jungler, both individually and just meshing well with the playstyle of CLG. It felt natural, and a lot of times on Immortals, I didn't see that like natural gameplay to Dardoch. It's very complementary to the team, and it seems much more like a 4 or 5 man engage versus a 1 man versus the world.
Right. So this game series, CLG did really well game 1, destroyed Echo Fox. Echo Fox came back game 2, and then they were on track to win game 3, but then the Baron steal happened, and then CLG all of a sudden is, hey, we have Baron. Let's go and take everything around the map and win. Okay.
Yeah, their power play from that Baron steal, it turned the game around absolutely, and it pretty much won them the match.
And it helps that there were so many turrets still up to take.
Exactly. The number of objectives we took in the 3 minutes that happened after that Baron were incredible.
Right. So moving on, we go up against Team Solo Mid. Don't really need any introduction as to who they are.
Our arch nemesis.
And unfortunately, we do not win this series, and it has been, if I recall correctly, since spring 2016, since we have last beaten TSM.
And that was, I believe, in the spring split finals.
Yeah, so from that note, it's not looking good for CLG, but if you actually look at how the matches played out, I think it's actually a lot better than the games would suggest.
Sure, especially game 3, I think.
Right, so let's talk game 1. Pub Stomp, GG. This game's
Pretty
over.
much. 20 kills from CLG. Stixay going deathless against Double Lift. 5-0 and 10 on the Varus. Stixay seems to really like the Varus pick. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and then
doing very well with it.
And then we've got Darshan on the Fiora. Oh, wait, hold on now. It's not Darshan on Fiora.
No, it's Huhi.
It's Huhi.
Mid lane Fiora.
Right, so this is actually a game with a really interesting set of draft picks because TSM decides to... Okay, so CLG, they banned LeBlanc, Ivern, Syndra, and then TSM bans Zac, Elise, and, of course, Aurelion Sol.
Sure.
In the first round rotation, CLG picks up Lee Sin for Dardoch. Mm-hmm. And then in reply, TSM picks up the Galio and Caitlyn. Yep. Caitlyn's standard pick, and Galio is very powerful.
Galio's a very good flex pick right now.
We've seen it that Galio is often played top lane, and we've seen a couple of mid lane Galio picks as well, and on a couple locations support Galio. And Galio is super strong right now. All of his matchups,
almost too strong.
His matchups in top lane are basically soft counters, unless you're up against Fiora, which is just a terrible matchup for him.
Yep.
So what does CLG do? In second round pick, they say, oh, you want the Galio? That's cool. We'll pick up the Fiora.
Sure.
And they pick up Varus. Alright, fine. Now, TSM looks at this and says, we don't want to put Galio against Fiora. Let's go give it to Kennen, which Fiora does not like that matchup.
Correct.
What does CLG do then? Okay, now we're at the second round bans, in which they ban the Thresh and Olaf, and TSM bans Bard, and for some reason they banned Zyra.
Probably because I saw Lafromu on it in the previous series.
Quite possibly, but he didn't do that amazing in that series.
Sure.
But regardless, they banned the Zyra for whatever reason. And then, what does they do? They pick up the Gragas and the Blitzcrank.
Yep.
TSM then goes and picks up the...
Lulu support.
I forgot, they already picked up Lulu support. Oh, no,
the last pick was Kha'Zix.
Kha'Zix.
For Sven.
Right. So, it's really interesting. A lot of interesting things here. So, CLG sees the Galio pick up, and they see the Kennen pick up, and they say, okay, we'll flex the Fiora mid lane. How many mid lane Fiora games have you ever seen?
I think I can count them on one hand and maybe one finger, including this game.
Yeah. And how many games of mid lane Fiora do you think Huhi's ever played? Ever. Even in solo queue.
Probably about the same number.
Like, what, maybe 5 total?
It's probably single digits.
So this is a really interesting setup, right? So you've got that, and you've also got the Blitzcrank pick, in which, alright, so if Blitzcrank pulls someone, and you know it has the potential to be a game changer.
Yep.
But Blitzcrank is not the ultra super reliable engage that you're always looking for, too.
Yep.
So it's up to Aphromoo to become a god and just pull these godlike pulls.
Yep, Aphromoo has to be the aggressor again in this matchup. He has to be able to hit all the hooks. He's facing a comp of Caitlyn Lulu early, which is an established, tier 1 composition right now.
They will bully you extremely hard.
If you don't hit your hooks and you don't, have that counter engage whenever they try to, send the Caitlyn in, you will do poorly.
Right. So what happens here? Early on in the game, Doublelift and Biofrost, I believe it was Doublelift, they stopped the recalls for Stixxay and Aphromoo.
Yep.
And this causes them to have a really poor back timing. Because this Doublelift has a lead, and he's got the BF, and Stixxay hasn't been able to back it, and they're able to pick up an Inferno Drake from this.
Yeah, because of the delayed back, they're able to take the first objective while they have to go back and do their first buy.
Correct.
Bought a lot of time for TSM.
A little bit later, or shortly after, I should say, CLG decides to make the first major move of the game, and they have Darshan TP bot, and we just have a massive bot lane party in which everyone joins in.
And it was really a party for CLG, wasn't it?
It was a party for CLG, and they played this fight extremely well. And what happens is the duo lane of CLG goes down, the duo lane of TSM goes down, and TSM are able to... Sorry, man, I'm getting this backwards.
It's okay, we're used to TSM being a better team.
Yeah, TSM's duo lane goes down, and then CLG is able to pick up not only the first blood, but also first turret.
Yep.
And from there, the game is just blown wide open.
It snowballed immediately.
Right. And what happens, TSM wants to do a little bit of fighting. Huhi has a couple of highlight moments for himself. He has a play which he solo kills Hanser. And then TSM actually picks up one of our carries, I forget who. No, they pick up Dardoch, and then they go for the Baron play. And then CLG is left to go and defend with 3 of them against the rest of the members of TSM, and then Huhi's trying to push into the base.
Yeah, Huhi trying to pull the pseudo Xpeke play here, just like the mass split push into their base, crack it open while TSM's trying to get the Baron.
Or as CLG fans have known to call it, the Darshan split push special.
Yep.
So ultimately, CLG is able to close out this game, and for the most part, it was just a stomp.
Yeah, and CLG fans felt really good after Game 1. I know I was excited watching Hui's mid-play.
I was pumped up. I was really ready for the 2-0, and I really wanted to rub it into TSM's face. But unfortunately, Game 2 happened, and
let's just look at the obvious. Svenskeren.
Svenskeren had one of those games where he decided not to pull a Svenskeren. He goes 13-0-12 on the Lee Sin. He has an amazing game. Pretty much everything that could possibly go wrong for CLG does.
Yep.
You know,
like,
Bjergsen
between Svenskeren
has fantastic walls. Oh, go ahead.
Between Svenskeren and Bjergsen, first, we see that Talia, at least in the 2 games that we've played against, has been one of the more popular champions played against us. I'm not sure if that's just picking into our composition, or if that's just something that teams think that CLG is weak against.
Or
But it certainly
possibly
looked
trying
weak
to follow up on who he's roaming style. Talia can roam
Sure.
very well.
Yeah, like, what are you going to answer when you ban Aurelion Sol?
Right, so Bjergsen goes off pretty well on the Talia, and Doublelift's arrows just constantly seem to find their mark. I mean, this game was pretty much over at, what, 12 minutes? Something like that?
It was, I mean, if I remember correctly, I was watching this game from a tent in Portland, Oregon, and I was sitting there, and I had to look at the time because of the gold lead, and I think it was 13 minutes in, we were down 6,000 gold.
It was bad.
It was really bad.
Right.
Like, there was one play in particular I remember in this game that was just like, you know, this is TSM's game. This is just like, I'm not even going to say the luckiest, but this particular play was pretty lucky. Doublelift fires an arrow, I think, from the jungle area.
Yeah, from blue buff, blue side.
Yeah,
towards mid lane.
Yeah. And, you know, it's going into mid lane, and Huhi moves right into the arrow, and it stalls out a play.
He ults backwards when he's attacking the TSM's mid lane turret, the outer turret, and he ults backwards, I think, to dodge the arrow, and he ends up getting hit by the arrow because of that. And it results in him going down.
Yeah, did Doublelift know that was coming? Was it just a lucky
I mean, I think that was just luck.
Yeah. I don't know.
Pretty much everything that could have gone TSM's way goes their way.
Exactly.
The Biofrost playing Thresh was super impactful this game, as any hooks that came from Blitzcrank, he was able to save people.
Yep.
And
generally, I feel like Thresh is the better bot lane. I feel like Thresh is just the better bot lane hooker right now.
Yeah, and CLG, credit to them, they tried to come back into the game, but they were just so far down in gold that even if they got a kill onto, say, Doublelift, it didn't matter. They had no DPS.
Like, gain a nickel, lose a quarter.
Pretty much.
Yep.
So, they absolutely wrecked us this game. GG.
The reverse pump stomp.
And we move on to Game 3.
Game 3, it was a classic, I'll say, for a regular split game. It was
a super close game. Both teams played really well, and you walk away from this game if you're a reasonable fan of thinking. Well,
thank you for saying reasonable.
If you're reasonable, you look at that and think both teams are pretty equal in strength.
Both teams are solid right now.
Now, I can't. You can say, oh, TSM won, so they're better, but I think both teams are pretty equal based on how this game turned out. It was a nail biter, extremely close. We'll talk about the ending in a bit.
Yep, I was really sad that the Xayah Rakan pickup from Stixxay and Afro didn't work out. I'm in love with that duo. I play it a lot in solo queue games. It works very well together, and it just didn't work out this time.
I'm going to be a little biased when I say this, but I actually think that it could have gone slightly more in CLG's favor. Part of the reason I say this is because, so there's a 5-man party early on in the game, if you remember that, and that almost blows the game wide open, for sure. I think it was the Justice once the taunt from Galio just barely misses, and then one of Huhi's charms barely misses Doublelift. And if either one of those land, CLG gets a whole lot more, and it could be very similar to game 1.
They probably get several kills.
Right, and the game just blows wide open like game 1.
Yeah, but it was just those little things like the skill shot just missing. Whereas, like, the TSM stomp game and game 2, it's just like nothing could miss. And here it's just like those little, just tiny windows that you just miss. And you hit one of those skill shots, and the game's just... I don't want to say it's over, but as you mentioned, it blows it open, cracks the egg, and we're probably on our way to a 2-1.
I mean, yeah, because then you've killed several people on top of getting first blood, first turret, all that other stuff.
Yep. And you probably get at least first Drake, maybe Rift Herald if you really want to do that. Yeah.
So, there's another point in the game in which there's a top lane dive by CLG. They've got 3 people, including 6-8 Aframu. And I want to say it was Stardock as well. And what happens is they're taking the top lane tower, and Aframu goes in, and he doesn't do the engage quite so properly.
Sure.
And unfortunately, COG isn't able to take the tower in time, and it's got one auto's worth of hit points left.
And Haunter is able to teleport in.
Right, Haunter's TPing in on the Renekton. He comes in, and he gets 2 kills from that.
Yep.
And I believe it was an assist as well. And then TSM is able to take the top lane turret on top of that. And what happens because of this? Darshan gets put super far behind, and Renekton is extremely strong.
Yep. Especially when he starts to get ahead.
Right, and on top of that, every team fight that we have, Darshan is ulting in on Galio. Now, is this the correct call? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It could also just be team call. We don't know that.
Sure.
But regardless of what it is, Darshan is ulting in on Galio, and as a result, he's losing a lot of CS for that. And Renekton's just going to continue split push, takes several towers this way.
Yep. Gets a lot of team gold for his team. Haunter on the Renekton in this game. The stat line doesn't show just how effective he was. You see a 4, 5, and 8 record from Haunter here, but the contributions that he made to TSM's overall game plan, whether it be a bit of luck and not getting hit by that one auto attack, or just the contributions overall to split pushing, the score line only says so much.
Correct. So. But on the flip side, Darshan's scoreline is also doesn't say as much either, because a lot of people I noticed were saying Darshan didn't play that well. But I think a lot of people are also just looking at the CS and saying, "Oh, look at how much more CS Renekton has," and that doesn't tell the whole story.
Yep. So I do want to, I'll get to this in a bit, but I'm still just surprised in the whole Game 3 draft, and we can get to that in a little bit. But Renekton was the only member of Game 3 that was not also in Game 2 for TSM.
Yes. Actually, you're correct. But one thing I do want to point out, so this game had so many moments where I think if CLG it makes fewer mistakes and has slightly better skill shot accuracy, things like that, I think a lot of team fights actually come out in COG's favor. Now, you could just as easily argue, though, that, counter-wise, that if TSM is a little bit more accurate or whatever, it comes out in their favor more often.
Yep.
But I think those two plays in particular really blew the game in TSM's favor, and then from there, COG just a little bit on the back foot.
Yep. The game felt very swingy overall, like swings one way with one decision or one bad play by the other team, and then it swings right back, and it just tended to go TSM's way one or two more times than CLG's.
Right, so forget what the actual time is, but TSM, they do a little bit of a bush play, and they have Renekton and Lee Sin. They both come in on 2 different flanks, and COG just gets collapsed upon from every side. They all get aced and go down. And then TSM gets the Baron. From there, they go push down top lane. They take the top lane tower and the inhibitor.
Yeah, the power play on the Baron was quite strong for TSM there.
Right. So they still have Baron, and then they recall, and they're pushing down mid lane. At least the 2 carries are of Bjergsen and Doublelift on the Talia and Ashe. This is their DPS. So what happens? COG actually makes a really good play. They wait in the bush near the red side wolf camp. That bush that's right behind the blue buff wall. So they all go in there, and they go from there. They gather grid engage, and they take down the 2 carries immediately. Hansa comes in. He also goes down, and then there's only Svenskeren on the Lee Sin and Biofrost on the Thresh. And COG makes the call to end the game right then and there.
Yep.
And this is, I think many people call a controversial call. They go in, they take the mid lane turret, they take the inhibitor turret as well. But they decide to end the game instead of backing off. People will say, look, Eldrick is coming up, and Galio will outscale the Renekton. 10 more minutes.
Late game, sure.
10 more minutes of the game. Then the game is probably decided by COG purely through team fights.
Sure. At the same time, I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I'm giving CLG a lot of credit for this call. It's a very aggressive call, and especially
I think it was the right call, personally.
I do think it was the right call, because you're playing a little bit from behind. You just had TSM get the Baron not too long before that. And
super minions are pushing in your top lane.
Exactly. And to have that decision to just say, you know what, let's go for broke and just go down mid lane. Very aggressive call, especially coming from behind. And had it not been for the play that Leon Thresh pulled off with Galio, that might have been game over right there.
Right, so credit to TSM's members. They go and they cut off the minion wave, and the backdoor protection is on, which makes it that much harder for CLG to end the game. Now,
yeah, I think if I remember correctly, when Leon Thresh cut off those minions a short time later, Galio died to turrets.
Right, I want to say Darshan was actually, for some reason, tanking the middle of the two Nexus turrets instead of on the side of one.
Yep, so he got hit by both.
Right, so that is one mistake. The TSM does a good job of stalling the minions. Even that, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is enough to turn the game.
It's crucial.
So, COG doesn't quite execute it properly, but in-game, that's a tough call to make.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure riding on whatever decision you make. If you make the call to be a little more passive, sure. And in theory, you're going to win 10 or 15 minutes later through, your more passive play. You take the Infernal Drake, you move on. Maybe you get another Baron. Who knows?
So,
but just as easily, if you make that call and then TSM gets aggressive and punishes you for it, the game's ends.
Over. Right. All right. So let's just give our final thoughts and wrap up this game before moving on.
Sure.
I know you want to touch upon the draft.
I do want to touch upon the draft because there are two instances that. I also watched the European LCS, not quite as intently as the NA LCS, but the draft in this game just brought right back to my mind what happened in the EU LCS this week between G2 Esports and Fnatic, where G2 let Reckless keep AD Kennen as an ADC, and Fnatic they punished them for it. They're like, hey, you're going to let me keep Kennen for 3 games, I'll make you pay for 3 games. I want to try and feel like this might be similar logic from CLG, letting Svenskeren keep the Lee Sin, letting Bjergsen keep the Talia. And it's just like, does CLG want to play TSM at its best? These are our best champions, beat us.
That's interesting, right? Because CLG goes for Xayah first pick. And I think the fear was that if they take something else first pick, let's say they take Galio or whatever, then TSM potentially takes the Xayah Recon bot lane as both of the champions were up.
Sure.
There's many different ways that draft could have gone. I personally thought the draft was fine. They get Xayah, they get Recon, and then they get Galio, which is a really good engaged combo.
Oh, I'm not discrediting the picks that CLG made. I'm more confused that the Lee Sin wasn't banned out for game 3. Or the Talia wasn't banned out, because when you see Svenskeren having a 13-0 and 12 performance game 2, normally that means I'm going to I would want to ban this if I'm on the other team.
Possibly, right? It depends what your priorities are, and also it depends if you think the Lee Sin was the big contributing factor of that game, or he was just a beneficiary of them snowballing out of control.
I wasn't on comms in that game. Obviously, I'm not CLG's coach.
Sure.
I was just a little confused that after what we felt like was a near stomp in Game 2, that TSM was allowed to keep 80% of its composition from Game 2.
Sure. At any rate, let's move on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will be here forever. So, GG, well played to TSM. I actually, as bad as losing feels, I actually feel really good about the way we played our games.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that we have a lot of potential, and getting first place is a definite possibility for us.
Yeah. So, you brought up first place, and I want to point out the standings right now. And you might be like, "Oh, we lost to TSM. This sucks." But no team in the NA LCS right now has 0 losses. There are 4 teams at 3-1. We have CLG. Yeah. We have Team Dignitas, of all things. I didn't expect them to be 3-1. They beat TSM this week. Immortals are at 3-1, and Team Envy is at 3-1. And then you see TSM and Cloud9 is just 2 middle of the pack teams right now at 2-2.
With Echo Fox.
With Echo Fox, exactly. So you see, it's just I feel like it's a more balanced split in terms of competitiveness, and I'm really excited to see what happens week 4.
Yeah. So, we do have a little bit more league news. I know we promised we would cover the Academy team. Unfortunately, I can't get any VODs of the games, and
Not many people can.
yeah, so unless you're a actual member of the CLG organization and the org is open to sharing it, the decision this year for the Challenger Series is that the games will not be shared,
Yep.
except for the few that are streamed. So the
I
first
think
set
it's
of
one a week.
yeah, so the
Yeah.
first set of matches was CLG Academy against Big God Jackals, and
Yep.
this was a 0-2 loss. Now Tuesday was unable to play, so CLG signed Linsanity, the player did an AMA a while back, and he was number 1 on the Challenger ladder.
Yep.
So, game 1, it's hard to tell just by looking at the match history. But I can link the match histories for both games. Or if you really want, just go to Lowell Esports and then go to the NA Challenger Series, and you can just view it from there. Game 2 was CLG Academy against Delta Fox, the meme dream team.
Oh my god, I could talk for hours about how smart this decision to make the stream meme team, if you can say that 5 times fast, or Echo Fox in terms of publicity, but they just have not performed at all so far.
I mean, they're not going to.
No,
I think
like, and that
Skara
might not
said
even
that.
be a 10
I
of
think
18.
Skara said that their goal with this team is to do as much as they can without any practice whatsoever.
Like, and I yeah, it's cool to see 5, LCS big players
I mean,
in the Challenger
they have
Series
no
again.
support, no junglers, so they've
Yeah.
got 3 mid laners.
Let's play the open mid comp, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I have to be looking as a potential Challenger Series team here and think we could just as easily be in that position and actually do something with it. So I have mixed feelings on it. Like, it's a great publicity thing for NA Esports as it gets closer to franchising time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the meme team has been more a meme than a team.
Yeah, I think we'll have a talk on franchising a little bit later on the split as we get more and
Yep.
more news of it. I know Riot released some news about it, but I'm sure there's more to come.
Yep.
So, moving on from League, we have CSGO, and we're actually going to start off with CSGO Red, and we've got some roster updates. So why don't you give
Yeah.
us some news about that?
Sure. So there are some CLG red roster updates that happened in the past week. Mainly 2 swaps. We have Miss Harvey and Claudia bowing out of the CLG red roster, and I apologize if I get this name wrong. Refinage and Emmy are taking their spot on the CSGO lineup, and we have a new coach in Cubed.
Yeah, so it's actually been a little quiet in regards to COG Red, and we hope to hear a little bit more about them soon.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they end up, just like what potential they bring to the CSGO esports community.
Yeah, absolutely. So good luck to the ladies of the CSGO Red team.
Absolutely.
And we'll move on to CLG Blue.
Yeah. So CLG Blue was kind of playing from behind this past week in the Americas Minor. First played against LG, and things didn't look too good for CLG early on. But in typical comeback fashion, they managed to cling to their lives in the Americas Minor in their first match, and they managed to win on Train 16-13 and on Cash 16-14. Again, both were come from behind victories. Things didn't look good early, but couple good buys, couple very good performances, and they managed to eke out a win against LG.
Yep, and then
Cloud9 happened.
Can't hear you quite so well.
Oh, sorry. Is that
There
better?
you go. Yeah, no problem.
Cool. But yeah, after the LG match, they then had to go against Cloud9 to stay alive in the tournament, and the games weren't particularly close. The momentum that they built from the LG match, it started well.
It started with 6 wins in a row for CLG.
Yep, and then C9 just kind of came back and once again killed our dreams. Ended up losing 12-16 on Inferno and 8-16 on Cash for a 2-0 loss, and unfortunately were eliminated from the Americas Minor. They did not qualify for the major qualifier. Yeah, they kind of collapsed after a good early game.
Yeah, so at PGL, I would have given a lot more highlights and explanations to what happened, but unfortunately, Artren is the CSGO guy. He has a much greater understanding of the game than me. I watched bits of it here and there, and my understanding of the game is there's two teams, there's the CT and there's T, and there's different maps.
Yes, there are counter terrorists, there are terrorists. There is an in-game economy, where you buy certain weapons.
I enjoy
money,
watching it. I just can't explain it.
Yeah, I can't explain it as well as I ever could with like League of Legends, but it's very entertaining. And CLG is a strong team. They just kind of ran into a bit of a collapse in the second match. Team. Yeah, C9 is just a stronger team right now.
Yeah.
But, we will have both of those links if you want to watch them from HLTV.
Yeah.
And that's our CSGO update.
Right, so let's move on to Smash. And Void played at Nairo Saga. So he's playing in the Wii U singles. And here he starts off in pool A6. And in this, he actually gets second place by 2-0ing, by starting by 2-0ing D2K and Act 2.
Okay.
Yes, his name is Act 2.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest, I'm not too familiar with the competitive Smash scene, but with a name like Act 2,
just enjoy the names. That's what he had to do. Right. So then he actually goes into the pool semis, and he 2-1s against Bankai Samus, or Zero Suit Samus.
Okay.
And from there, in the finals for the pools, the winners finals, he goes up against 3-1 on Zinto's Diddy Kong.
Sure.
In the winners round 1, he goes up against Mr. R. And
you did mention these names are entertaining, so I might have to watch just for that.
Yeah, Smash is fun to watch. I highly recommend it.
I've played plenty of it. I just haven't watched it competitively.
Mm-hmm. So just to give a little bit of context as to who Mr. R is, name you've heard on this podcast before, and if you watch Smash, he actually lost against Mr. R at Royal Flush. So what does our boy Void do? He comes back for some revenge. And he wins his first round on Smashville, and then he falls on Final Destination. Void, though, he comes back strong, and he wins on Town and City, and he wins this map twice in a row.
All right.
He gets to move on. From there, he moves up against MK Leo, and he loses actually 0-3 on Town and City, and then twice on Final Destination. So unfortunately, from there, he gets pushed into the losers bracket, and he starts off in losers round 5. There, he faces Komor Rikiri, and he loses 0-3 on FD, and 2 times then on Town and City. So unfortunately, this means Void's places somewhere in the 9th through 12th at this tournament, and he gains 8 points towards the 2 CG Championship Series. So just to give a little bit of explanation, the 2G Championship Series, it's a tournament in which 20 players have to qualify for in this circuit finale. 10 players qualify for the 2GC tournaments, and you do that by winning the tournaments themselves, the different qualifiers. I want to say this one was. Right, and I want to say this one was the 5th or 6th. I forget which one it is.
Okay.
At any rate, one player can also qualify by winning the last chance event. Now, everyone else gets qualified through points and point accumulation.
That's 9 players, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, Void right now, he gained 8 points at this particular qualifier and has a total of 44 points. And I did the counting. Void is 11th in total points, and he's actually 8th if you remove the winners of previous tournaments, which includes Zero, TSM Zero, and I want to say it was Ale, and the other name is not coming to me at the moment.
Sure, but if you take the folks that are going to auto-qualify by winning events, the Void's still in contention to qualify on points alone.
He is still in contention to qualify on points alone. I'm sure, though, that that's not what he wants. I'm sure he would love to just win it.
I would love a win.
Absolutely. And just go from there. Uncontested, right?
Yep. But decent performance by Void. Got some points to potentially qualify, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll wish him luck in the rest of the qualifiers.
Yeah, and as for other Smash news, as far as I know, none of our other boys played this week. It was just that. So, I think that's it, actually. There's no Overwatch announcements as far as I can tell.
Yeah, the last Overwatch news came, I think, on the 3rd. It might have even been the 2nd, with CLG losing to Immortals. in one of the qualifier events. No other events really took place in the past week, so
Yeah.
not much in the Overwatch world.
I do want to give a shout out to Fallen Bandit and Kusta. On the previous week's podcast, I actually missed their birthdays. I'm really sorry about that.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy belated birthday from us at the CLG Faithful crew. And actually, I think we do have one set of announcements from CLG.
Yep. So if you saw on Twitter, as you all probably know at this point, CLG has a new sponsor in 5 Hour Energy. And I think the CSGO crew wore these, correct? At the last match. I'm pretty sure they did. I knew one of the competitive CLG teams wore these at their last competitive match. But in essence, 5 Hour Energy has these 5 different jerseys, which are kind of mimicking the 5 flavors. It's like grape, apple, watermelon, lemon, and blue raspberry. I might have butchered some of those, but the jerseys were put on display on CLG's Twitter, and you're allowed to vote for them. And the winning vote getter is going to have that jersey produced. The League of Legends guys are going to be wearing them in Week 4, and they will be producing them to purchase on the CLG store. And I reached out in true Reddit fashion and was like, I'd really like if these got personalized. And
oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and they're the director of business dev just replies with a thinking emoji. So I'm like, maybe that'll happen. That'd be kind of sweet. And if you don't vote for the purple jersey, you might as well feed. I think it's the best looking one there.
I don't know. I actually really like Afromove's one. I think that one looked really cool. I also like Darshan's one.
Darshan, if nothing else, the pose he made for that outfit was outstanding.
It works.
I don't know if I can do the camo. I certainly couldn't wear it well. I wouldn't look good in it. But if I were ranking it, I definitely, just like you mentioned, I would put I'd put the purple one and then the one that Afromoo wore, like the cross red and green.
It just the fiery look to it looks super nice.
Yeah, it looks real sweet. But looking forward to see how the votes turn out there and seeing what the League of Legends boys are going to be playing in Week 4.
Yeah, I mean, they're all pretty cool. If we can get more different variations on the jerseys, that'd be awesome.
Look, more ways to take my money. By all means, go for it.
I know my Darshan jersey just came in.
Nice. I'm still rocking the CLG pink, so this will be a nice addition to the collection.
The Valentine's Day ones.
I didn't know if it was Valentine's Day or Mother's Day, but in either case, it looks good on me.
Right. I mean, they were pretty cool either way.
Yeah, like I am not afraid to rock the pink.
Hey, more power to you.
Yep.
All right, and I think that's all we've got for this week. So, Professor Yana, if the people like to hear more from you, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on Twitter at Prof Yana _Twitch. I play a lot of trading card games outside of League of Legends. You'll normally see me streaming them Tuesday and Wednesday nights on my Twitch channel, which is at Professor Yana. And otherwise, feel free to drop a line on Twitter. Would love to hear from you. And looking forward to possibly being back in the future. Yeah,
absolutely. And as always, I'm Nefarious. You can just find me on Twitter at Nefarious, NEFARI0USS. So, just as a final note, the COG podcast is a weekly podcast that goes over all things COG. If you like what we do, then please take a few moments to follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, give us a rating on iTunes, or just feel free to leave a comment. We always reply, and we love getting feedback. So, thanks again, everyone, and this has been the COG Faithful Podcast. Signing off.